Hi, everybody. Welcome to Donnie Ariel, the People's Champion. This is an old game where I played Jennifer Shahade, perhaps my most famous scalp, if not my highest rated. Um, all right, let's see the game. Okay, so F3, you probably know the idea of this move, but basically it's to avoid the Grunfeld defense, right? If you play knight c3, they could play d5, takes, takes, e4, and now you can play knight takes c3, right? But if you look at this position and I play f3, well, now d5 is not a good move, right? Because after takes, takes, e4, you have to move the knight again. Just a little move order thing. It's not better or worse, really. Um, c5, I played d5. All right, pretty normal. A little more space for white. Okay, so now I played kind of an extravagant move that I think is very typical of a young person, returning to our theme of, old versus young. I played f4. It's kind of surprising because my pawn's already on f3. I certainly don't have to do that. It's definitely not the best move. You could make an argument for it that this knight has moved to a6, where it's less likely to be able to attack the e5 square than if it had come to d7. It's definitely not a good move. But okay, it's a very fighting move. e6. The computer likes taking it. But I think if you take it, that's kind of an admission that you have followed a slightly dumb strategy so far. I mean, black's not going to have any problems. I just developed takes. Now, I can't take with the e-pawn, right? Because rook e8 check. It's very awkward. It's not the end of the game, but it's definitely, a little bit annoying. So I also want to preserve the idea of playing e5 myself. So this is a more dynamic way to play, but the problem is my king is stuck in the center, and I didn't really have quite the time for it. And actually, black is a bit better here already. The best move is c4, and I can move my bishop to c2, but there's a lot of good moves here now for black. Black could play queen b6. Black could play b5 even, taking advantage of the fact that this pawn is not really hanging because this pawn is not adequately protected, because this rook can come to e8. But I think maybe queen b6 is the simplest to kind of just demonstrate that, black has a decent position because, for example, if queen d4, right, preparing to castle, otherwise white can't castle, takes, knight e4, and this knight's hanging. So it doesn't mean that the game is over or whatever. I mean, black is better, but the other variation you have to look at, of course, is takes. But here, black can just take here. And, whatever you do, I guess you could do this. There's f5 to get the piece back. So black should have played c4 in this position. But black played, very natural move, rook e8. Then I castled, and then black played c4. Okay, so it's a little bit less effective, but it's still quite strong. So I don't want to take on c4 because I don't want to lose my e4 pawn. So I played bishop c2. Now black played knight c5, attacking this pawn again. And, I'm a little bit worse, but it's not certainly no disaster or anything. I wasn't sure what to do. I played e5, takes, knight g4, and now, the computer suggestions are queen d4 or bishop f4, which are both quite sensible to, protect this pawn. Some complications would ensue. What I played is this move. And my idea was when black takes it, I'm going to play d6. So this comes up in a lot of positions. You play one pawn forward than the other. I've seen it called sealer sweeper, but, all names in chess are sort of artificial. Was it a good idea? I don't know, but it was a complicated idea. So now black played knight d3 and kind of fell into my trap, actually, which, believe it or not, even though this game was played a long time ago, I do remember seeing in advance what would happen. So I took it. Queen b6 check, king h1, takes. And now black's position is actually perfectly fine. If you count up the material, it's equal. Black could play bishop d7. Very complicated position, but no reason why white has to win the game. you know. However, black played knight f2, which was a big mistake that I am happy to say I anticipated in advance. Obviously, I have to take it. If I don't take it, now you might think, well, um, if I don't take it, I'm going to lose my queen with check. So I got to take it. Takes. By the way, what I hesitated, I guess I should admit that I was actually looking at, is this going to be smothered mate? King h1, queen g1. Well, if you play rook takes, that's a pretty big blunder, because then knight f2 would indeed be mate, but you could just play knight takes queen. Okay, so in fact, though, it doesn't really matter because we can't lose the queen. We have to take this knight. Takes here. Knight e4. Queen can't come in anywhere. It has to go back. Okay, now this is a very important position. You might want to stop the video and take a look. White has to play the right move in this position. If white plays the right move, he has a huge advantage, basically a winning advantage. If you don't play the right move, then it's about equal. Okay, and the right move is bishop h6. White has a lead in development, an advantage in time, but has sacrificed the exchange. So the key here is you have to attack with vigor. Now, if black were to just ignore this move, let's say, or well, this would not really be ignoring it, but let's say you play bishop h8. Well, now we've gotten two moves in, a very aggressive move, bishop h6, and a defensive move. And this position is pretty crushing for white. I mean, you could play knight h4, getting ready to sacrifice here. If queen b2, you just move the rook to f1, bring the rook into the game. Let's play this just to demonstrate the idea. You could take it. Takes. Knight g5, and you don't have a good defense to queen g6. So there is a problem here, right? What is black going to do? Well, if black were to just develop his bishop, then he has another problem, which is, well, now these black squares are really weak, right? So now just a move like queen c3 is crushing, right? e5, you take it. Basically, the game's over here, right? Okay, so what did she do? Well, she took it. Knight f6 check, king f7, and now I played a move that at the time I was very proud of. It actually is not a good move. Here, white has a crushing attack, and simply a move like like rook f1 would end the game. There's many variations. We certainly don't have to go into all of them. If e5, d7 is very strong, it turns out. Everything is just a bit stronger with the rook on the f file. We're not going to look at every variation. White is also, but we will. Let's look at one critical one, which is what if he takes this knight? Okay, so this is going to lead to mate. Knight g5, check from the rook. King e5, can you find mate in one? Knight f7. Okay, so he can't go that way, right? Well, can he go back? Nope. Check. If you go to h8, this pawn hangs with check, so you can go here, but that could simply take it, and you don't have a defense to queen takes g6. Okay, well, what if he takes? What if he goes? What if she goes here? Takes the knight. Well, actually, this is going to lead to mates. So it could happen a few different ways. Let's take a look at one of them. Queen g3, king h5. Basically, you have to do this little dance, check. And the purpose of this little dance is to get a position like this. Could have happened a few ways, check. Queen back, check. If you take a look on your own, you'll see that there was no defense, even though there's a few little wiggles that black could have tried. Okay, well, this then, let's see. So rook f1 was really totally crushing move. I also think it's, the most natural move now that I look at it, because you bring the last piece into the attack, right, in a very strong way. So if you see that he can't play king takes knight, then rook f1 is pretty obviously a good move. I played knight e5 check. And what I saw was, which by the way gives away the line share of the advantage. Black took it. And now I did play the best move, which was what I anticipated, queen c3. I thought this is absolutely crushing. I have a lot of threats. I'm threatening to discover check, move my knight, maybe take his queen, threatening to bring my rook into the game, into the attack. I don't know, it looks pretty good. Um, and in the game, she played King F5, and then that was returned my mistake with a mistake, and I was able to win shortly thereafter. You may want to stop here and think, because this is a critical position where black has to play the best move. And we have emphasized what is undoubtedly true, which is that in chess, it is critical that you play the right move in the critical positions. Now, that might sound trite, but if you have played in a chess tournament recently, you will have seen people vegetating in the opening over decisions that really do not matter, because the equity swing between playing the best move and the second best move is virtually non-existent. Here, the difference is between losing the game in one move or being okay. So what can black do? Well, black can actually play, in this position, king back. King g7. Well, what am I going to do? I could play d7, which is probably the absolute strongest move in the position. But whatever you do, you're going to get some variation of the following endgame. And it doesn't really make that much sense for us to stop and analyze what's the exact best way to get the endgame with slightly better pawns. Let's just take a look what I'm talking about. So check. Let's say black. So I'm discover check on the king. I'm going to win the queen for sure, right? Takes. Take the queen. Recapture. Check. It doesn't really matter where the king goes. d7 takes. Queen takes. Okay, and now we have this endgame. Well, what's the evaluation? About equal. I mean, maybe is white for choice? Maybe. When you have a queen and the king is exposed, it's usually you get some checks. So if there's complications, maybe you won't lose. But if you look at the position, black is equal right now, at least in material, has this passed e pawn that's coming up the board. And black's not going to get checkmated here. So actually, this was a really big opportunity. King g7 would have maybe saved the game. She played king f5. Now, rook f1, check. Bishop f4. So this is the idea, is to put the bishop in the way, hope to defend up quite a bit of material. But I have knight c4, which is really strong. And the biggest threat is not to take the queen. You might want to stop for just a second. What's the biggest threat? I mean, I'm sure there's many ways to win, but queen e5 check would be crushing, because you can't play bishop takes queen because of the pin. She tried to prevent that by playing queen b5, which controls the e5 square. And now there's many ways to win, but I just played a4. And in this position, she resigned, because there's no way to keep the queen and keep control of e5. You could give up the queen, let's say, for the knight, but now you have a problem compared to the other position. Your king is not safe, right? I mean, you're not really up material and you're in trouble. So in this position, she resigned. If you play queen c5, simply b4. Thanks very much for watching. We'll see you next time.